I wanted to create a long video where I talk about terrain generation, but after a couple of weeks of working I realized that project was beyond my capabilities. So here we are, this is part 1 of a mini series where I will share my experience of generating words with you. Well, before we get into complicated stuff, I think we can just take a look at rendering data. First of all, I will refer to rendering as visually displaying information. This word has a lot of meanings, but I will stick to this one. Take a look at this boolean variable. If the value is true, then we render a green square. Else, we just render a red one. I think that's pretty straightforward, so let's go ahead and render a number. We can do that in a lot of ways. For example, we can just draw the number digits on our screen, but I would like to overcomplicate things and create an HP bar. I think most of us know how a typical HP bar works. You can find one in most video games. It is a pretty interesting way of displaying a number because it doesn't require too much brain power for us to understand what the current HP is. Heck, everything is as simple as if the bar is long, you got a lot of HP, if the bar is short, you don't. By the way, if you pay attention, you can also read the number by looking at the bar color. It goes from green to red as the number gets lower. You might think that all the things I've said until now are pretty straightforward and useless, and that might be partially true, but I would like to clarify those things since generating terrain can be just rendering a couple numbers. And by a couple I mean hundreds. I want you to take a look at all these rendered numbers. I don't know if you see that, but right now you're looking at a cliff actually. That might sound pretty weird, but right now you're looking at a procedurally generated cliff. So yeah, that's it. If you take more numbers and you render them, you get a terrain. Sounds pretty straightforward. Alright, let's get into more serious stuff. In this series I will use Roblox Studio because this game engine uses Lua, and if you barely know English you should be able to understand Lua. That was supposed to be a joke. Anyway, you need to be equipped with a 3D rendering software. I don't care what you use, you can try Unity, Unreal Engine or whatever is out there. Now if you follow this series I suppose you know how to code, at least a bit. If you don't, I will try to explain the concepts behind procedural generation as clear as I can, so stick around. What you're looking at is me increasing and decreasing a part height in Roblox Studio. In the top left corner you can see the current part size. It has 3 numbers and I will refer to them as X, Y and Z from now on. That's important, keep that in mind. And of course, as I'm modifying the part height, you can see the Y number also modifying. So Y stands for height. You can see in the right image what X and Z stand for. This is what the code looks like. If we try creating more parts, the code will look like this, which doesn't look good at all. So we're going to use a for loop which will repeat the code for us, and we keep things simple and the code looks clean. Now if you're still watching this and you don't know how to code, you should know that a for loop basically repeats a code fragment, and the code fragment ends at the end keyword. If you try running that code, you won't see 3 parts, only one. That's because we've created 3 blocks that have the same position, which makes them impossible to distinguish. They look like one part. So I made some changes to the code. You can see I classified the part's position as important too, and up there you can see an index variable. Each time the code fragment repeats, the index variable is incremented by 1. That means we know what lab our current code runs in. So knowing all of this information, we can just set the part's position X to index. In a nutshell, as the index increases, the part's position X increases, so the part moves a bit to the right. To make the scene look a little bit better, I will add some variety to the parts. A way to do that is creating an array. I think most of us know what an array is. It is just a list of values. For example, an array could be a list of numbers. In my case, I will just add 3 random numbers into this array. Then when I set the position of the part, I will set the y to that specific number from the array. So first part has the first value of the array, second part has the second value of the array, third part has the third one. You might think this doesn't look good at all, and that's pretty true. But we have rendered an array. We visually represented each value of the array by creating a block that stays on that spot. In a nutshell, looking at the position y of those parts, we can approximate every value from the array. So that's it for part 1. If you hope part 2 comes soon, then you should know I hope that too. I have no idea when I will release that video. If you don't, then I would like to know why, and as always, if you have any video idea, please tell me. See you next time.